burst up on the inbox saying, James, please make it make some sense. And I think that might be our topic today, actually. The statistics, the numbers are extraordinary, by the way. The findings now veer from the obscene to the hilarious. Listen, I think we're allowed to just laugh now, aren't we? That the gnashing of teeth is long past. The hopes that courses would be changed in time to prevent damage have dissipated, have disappeared. This line here, if you had to find a line that best sums up the absolute madness of all of it, it would probably be the idea that the overwhelming consensus among economists is that the impact of Brexit has been significant and negative, but not catastrophic. I know we are still here. But this line here is, I mean, if you think about the conversations that were had in the run-up to it, and I think even more fervently after the vote, this line here is, I mean, it's just embarrassing. Some of the downsides on trade have been partially offset by increases in migration. So regardless of what attitude you took towards Brexit, or whether you were telling the truth or not, what reason you had for voting for it, the idea that the increase in migration has mitigated the damage to trade is about as close to a complete condemnation of every single argument for leaving it that anyone could imagine. Should we? I don't know. Do we need to get the boring stuff out of the way? Do we need to say, look, that of course Europe's not perfect and they have economic problems as well, and it's various issues because being in the European Union doesn't make your country perfect. How do we know that? Because we were in it, and guess what? Our country wasn't perfect. But show me a problem, and I'll show you how it would be even bigger if you left. Show me a problem in Germany, show me a problem in France, show me a problem in Poland, show me a problem in Greece, and I would show you a problem that would be even bigger if they weren't in the European Union. But that idea, so whether it was migration or the fact that you believed the lies about the economy that prompted you to put your ex in that box, that line there, that some of the damage that would have been done to trade has been partially offset by the increases in migration. 6 minutes after 10 is the time. And we did briefly, didn't we? Do you remember, Keith? What happened to the tin? We went through a phase, didn't we, of putting, was it £1? Putting £1 in a tin, metaphorically speaking, every time I said the words "I told you so," because I was conscious of guarding against it. I get messages. Let me just find one for you. Here we go. Malcolm says, the best thing about Brexit is listening to you cry. So that kind of mindset of people who think that if they hit themselves in the face really hard with a frying pan, and I wince and go, oh mate, don't do that. They go, I love it when you wince. Bang! Smashes himself in the face with a frying pan again, old Malcolm. Bang! And all of the things that he thought were going to happen haven't happened. And all of the people going, well, it's a shame, isn't it, that you keep smashing yourself in the face with a frying pan. Clang! Look at James over there wincing and crying and trying to get me to stop. Clang! And on it goes. And I think that the current prominence that Nigel Farage enjoys in the opinion polls is probably down to people having become addicted to smashing themselves in the face with a frying pan because they think it somehow hurts other people. Let's own the libs. Let's own the woke. Clang! Another smash in the face with a frying pan. 7 minutes after 10 is the time. So how do we do it today? How do we do it today? The other statistic that is hard to believe, and yet at the same time not hard to believe, is the one about support or the one about beliefs that things have gone well. And I want to get this one absolutely right. Bear with just 1 moment. That the number of people who voted to leave who think that Brexit has been more than a success than a failure. There's a lot of polling out today. We'll have a look at as much of it as we can. So get what figure? So leave voters, actual Malcolms, clang, who think that it has been more of a success than a failure. People, I suppose, who consider who think that people being proved right about things somehow embarrasses the people being proved right rather than the people being... I don't know. But the percentage of Britons who voted to leave the European Union, who believe that Brexit, who currently believe that Brexit has been more of a success than a failure. What would you put on that in percentage terms? So here are 100% of Leave voters. What percentage of them do you think believe today that Brexit has been more of a success than a failure? In other words, people who think it's gone really well. It's 11%. So 1 in 5 people who voted for it, 1 in 5 people who voted for it think that it has been more of a success than a failure. And the sound of that 11% smashing themselves in the face with a frying pan still resonates across the island. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Absolutely extraordinary. And I'm not going to stop using that word today because these are extraordinary times. We find ourselves in extraordinary territory. So, I mean, the idea that it would go badly, or the idea that it would not be any of the things that we were told it would be, I think was fairly clear from the start. The idea that things would have fallen apart quite so completely, quite so quickly is, I mean, breathtaking. So 11% of Britons say that Brexit has been a success. 1 in 5 Leave voters think that Brexit has been more of a success than a failure. So 11% of the country, but 20% of people who actually voted to leave, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because you'd split it more or less equally. So it would be the same people, just a bigger sample. So you knew that the wheels would come off. You knew that, I mean, today, I imagine, I haven't checked, that people like Farage, here you go, front page of the Daily Telegraph, Nigel Farage, the job isn't finished yet, which translates roughly as, there is a brilliant Brexit. It goes to a different school. And then David Frost, who, of course, campaigned tirelessly for Remain when he was running the Scotch Whisky Association or something like that, but saw some wonderful career opportunities in changing sides and ended up in the House of Lords. So, you know, it paid off for him. He's written an article under the headline, "Leaving was our liberation." And yet the people who believed them, or the people who believed Farage now, number just 1 in 5 of the people who actually voted for it. So I've clarified. Stop questioning my statistics. I've already clarified them. 1 in 5 Leave voters think Brexit has been more of a success than a failure. 11% of Britons, which includes Remain voters, say Brexit has been a success. So that's the split there. I appreciate your attention to detail. I should have been a little clearer. And one of the reasons I have to laugh, one of the reasons I think we should joke about it, people like Malcolm notwithstanding, people who are still addicted to smashing themselves in the face with a frying pan, is because my mantra throughout this period has been contempt for the con men, compassion for the conned, as you know. The idea that there is something bad or even stupid about people who were victims of one of the single most effective propaganda campaigns that this country has ever witnessed. If you look at the gamut of newspapers, and it was kind of the last hurrah, wasn't it, of the era in which newspapers exercised epic influence: the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, the Sunday Times, the Sun, of course, all of that public discourse designed to persuade people to smash themselves in the face with a frying pan. So I never really blamed the ordinary voters who decided to do so. I blamed the con men, the people who do this for a living, who have a responsibility, a professional and moral responsibility to explain facts to people. And yet, of course, plenty of people who do what I do for a living ended up encouraging you to smash yourself in the face with a frying pan. Let's stop that metaphor now and go instead for the patriotic angle, to damage our country, the country that we all love. These people who retain positions of power and influence, not as much in politics as the media. The media champions of Brexit appear to have been completely untouched. The political champions of Brexit have mostly fallen by the wayside. Or of course, I mean, received knighthoods and Daily Telegraph columns and seats in the House of Lords, but they're mostly not in Parliament anymore, except Farage and a few of the prominent Tories. But the absolute failure of any of them to face proper consequences is a much bigger problem than the people who believed them and propelled them into positions of power. I think I'll play you a few reminders. I'll do it after the break. I didn't realise this was going to be one of those days when I wasn't particularly bothered about taking any calls, but it's turning into one. So let's stop that now and start look. What I mean by contempt for the comment, compassion for the conned, is are we friendly enough? Do you think, for me to ask you, looking back now, why do you think you fell for it? I'd love to do a show on that. I'm never quite sure. It's worked sometimes, hasn't it, in the past? And then other times it hasn't quite worked. And we end up analysing how other people fell for it. But I bear you no malice whatsoever. And I do hate the fact that you've got the injuries still from smashing yourself in the face with a frying pan. Because, of course, we can't overlook the fact you also hit the rest of us in the face with a frying pan. You know, the Daniel Hannans, the Andrea Leadsams, the Gisela Stewarts, the Jacob Rees-Moggs, the Nigel Farages, the Boris Johnsons. They damaged all of us. They didn't just make the people who believed them look stupid. They made life worse for all of us in various ways. I wonder how many people still talk about sovereignty. That was the first sign of the wheels coming off, wasn't it? When they started telling us that the big win was literally invisible. The big win is sovereignty. It's what? Sovereignty. Do you like sovereignty? Can you feel the sovereignty around you? And you'd sort of go, well, no, unless you were still dazed from smacking yourself in the face with a frying pan, at which point you'd start pretending you loved all the sovereignty and the sovereignty made it all worth it. So we were supposed to get richer, and if you were minded to bring down immigration, you were supposed to feel the joy of fewer foreigners populating our health services and schools and various other areas of the country. And yet, one area on which everybody agrees, is that some of the damage to our economy has been mitigated by the rises in migration. The most fundamental demolition of all Brexit rhetoric contained within a simple single sentence. The damage to our trade would have been even worse if non-EU migration hadn't rocketed to a place that made the overall figures bigger than they were when we enjoyed freedom of movement between here and the European Union. So, 16 minutes after 10 is the time. Is it too soon for you to just give me a call and tell me what you think, why you think you fell for it? 0345 600973. Okay, only 1 in 5 people who voted for it think that it has been more of a success than a failure. There'll be some people who subscribe to the unicorn still. You know, there is a good Brexit. It just goes to a different school. But I don't know that we can have the same arguments again that we used to have. And you can tell me that we'll be able to trade with the European. I mean, Farage is going to try, judging by the front of the Daily Express this morning. He's going to pretend that there is a brilliant Brexit that only he can deliver. And it will involve all the same old lies. I mean, why wouldn't he try it again? His entire grift has been built upon lies about the European Union, so he can just start telling more. We'll be able to do this and we'll be able to do that. And the only reason why, do you know what he'll say? He'll say the only reason why things haven't gone well is because people didn't believe enough. That's surreal, right? That's surreal. The fact that you could come back to the idea that belief somehow changes gravity. Belief somehow changes geography. Belief somehow changes economic. Just believe more. If you believe enough, then you might, I don't know, grow horns out the top of your head. You just got to believe more, and you'll win the lottery on Saturday. You just got to believe. It's extraordinary, and there it is, front page of the Daily Express. We need people who believe in Brexit, even now, 5 years after it happened. Such contempt for ordinary people that he thinks he can sell them another vat of snake oil. You just need to believe more. Feel the sovereignty.